all this information, ideas. You could feel like things you never understood why you were into or whatever, like, oh, it was training. It was training. Like everything was leading up to this moment. Like, and then another thing is too, is like we felt for so long like the energies was like we were in quicksand. And now all of a sudden it's like the quicksand has decimated, like it's no longer there. And it's like, oh my gosh, we're free to move. Like things where you felt constricted or held back or blockages is all of a sudden removed and you're free to go. So it's like, sometimes that could be scary at first where people they're used to the living a certain way and they're like, no, but I like this job and I don't want it. I don't want the uncertainty of going after that. But it's like now it's like the shackles are kind of off and you're ready to go.
Interesting because in a sense, it's like we're coming out of the Kali Yuga. And so we're starting to peep back into the light as we're, channeling toward the closer to the center of our, galactic plane as we're going around it in theory. But that's really interesting. That
is there some sort of dual nature with this? Because it seems to me that there's a majority of people in society are completely opposed to everything you're describing. So is there some sort of like dual entity?
The duality. I keep saying this year is going to be like shit storms and rainbows.
Doesn't get more dual. Going to have some interesting, considerations with their thought processes. For sure.
There's going to be people that, the ones that don't want to get on board, they're going to divert back. Like, these people are going to have these forward movements where they don't just go to the next level. Like they catapult there, like something throws them far ahead. You're going to have like crazy advancements, where you jump so many steps, you get, you're catapulted. Whereas the people that are stagnant and they're like, no, F this, like, I don't need this. I don't need AI, I don't need to utilize it. This is the devil or whatever, or just completely aren't adapting or don't want to rebel or they like things the same, are going to like divert back like years in their development. Like you're going to, because it's too much for them. So they not
put up fences. And so, yeah, it's going to be hard for them to go through them all. There are a lot of.
It reminds me of like dementia or Alzheimer's. You know how like dementia or Alzheimer's, people that have it, like they don't remember the last like 20 years, but they could tell you like yesterday things that happened when they were like 8, like crystal clear, or about the memories and the senses of their old memories. It's almost like that. Like the people that don't want to change, they go way back. They're going to be, not a lot of growth and diverting back.
Back into the wilderness.
So what does your class like involve? Any astral projection or?
Now, astral projection, I don't recommend astral projection, like, because what people want to do is they want to lay down. There's things that you could do to where your body, like where you leave your body. And when you're doing it like that and you're focusing like that and you just want to kind of fly around, I've noted that you get attacked. It's almost like, with a lot of people's experiences with going into the DMT realm, like there's all these jokesters and deceivers. It's filled with that.
And saying the big part of astral projection, out of body experience, AKA there's also losing your mind. You have lost your mind when you are in an out of body experience. Your consciousness is experiencing another just existing
realm,
separate now from where it has left your tethered body. And then in your physical body, if another body or person that's still in this realm starts trying to interact with you, trying to connect to your consciousness when it has, is out of your body, you've lost your mind, well, then the body can have knee-jerk reactions of freakouts or ego crashes or violent.
This is what Inception is all about, in a sense,
right?
Yeah,
exactly. Or potential trauma of you've actually lost your mind because during your out-of-body experience, the synapse connection in your wiring of your brain has, put your focus back into the now, but your actual consciousness is still out in another dimension, right? So you have to.
We briefly chatted about this on an earlier show when I was talking about the Dropa, and in Bhutan, in Tim Sing Monastery, there's this revered, I guess he would be a lama or a priest or a monk, basically, that was there. His name was Drakpa Geltsen. He was from around 1600 AD. And he was known to be able to levitate himself in deep meditation and his ritual instruments. He's seen often floating off the top of Mount Meru on a rainbow towards the brightest star in the east of Sirius, which is kind of where this idea of astral projection comes into play. And it's interesting because the monks in this monastery, or Zong Lokong in Bhutan, it's central Bhutan area around Bhutan. The monks will go into the Holy of Holy. It's a room that's probably 15 by 20 foot. It has some of the oldest paintings on the walls, and so they're barely lit by butter lamp lights, basically, and often the monks will go in there and blow the lights out. But they'll go around doing their prayers and their mantras, wearing this incredibly heavy piece of chainmail. Eventually, they'll sit down in their lotus position, and they'll stake the chainmail into the ground because it has hooks and a stake on the end of it. And this thing weighs quite a bit. And in belief, it's so that they won't lose their body astral projecting themselves into the dimensions of time and space, because they're not initiated. And so what Julia was saying is
that's why I'm saying, like, there's things with remote viewing that there's technique, like there's times where when I remote view, that's what I call it. I want to call it inner jeweling, okay? Because we all have our third eye. It's a jewel. All right, we need to tap into that jewel. But like when you, there's times where I do it, and sometimes it'll be like where it'll be like a slideshow. Sometimes I'm there and I can move around, like I'm in there. I could go through walls. I could go underneath, all of that. Bird's eye view. You could drop down. It's amazing. But then there's times where it's like a diagram, like Picasso drawing, like 2D, and then there's times where it's like a slideshow, and then there's times it's like a movie viewing things, and sometimes it's like a drone. And it's been times where it's like a drone, and I've been above the water. I could smell ocean water, like smell it physically. Like I could smell it. I feel like wind, like it's blowing into my hair. It reminds me of that. There's a ride at Disneyland, those interactive ones. That's like, I forget what you call those things, but they'll blow air and it'll move like you're there. One of those like rides that doesn't really move very far, but it gives you the sensations. Like
it gives you a haptic sensation.
Yeah, and it could be like that. And so it'll change like a stick shift where like I'm in one gear and I'm viewing it like that, and then boom, it'll drop down to this next gear where it's like diagrams. Like, and the way that it's able to do that, sometimes I don't always have like control over it. And but like when a remote viewer wants to view a distance location, they project their biophysical field to that distance location, and the biophysical field will then shuttle back and forth between the distance location and the current location. And each time the biophysical field returns to the remote viewer, it will download bits of information of the distance location. So the trick of remote viewing is training your subconscious mind to project this info into your conscious mind, where you will experience flashes of information taken from the distance location. So it could be in the form of images and sounds, and so it's like that transference of the data, and the conjugation too of it, of the experiments of the phosphine is an energy that emanates from your brain and allowing physical objects to be seen like in the dark. So through remote viewing, consciousness projection, clairvoyance, and other methods, you could see what can happen in the future, because your consciousness is picking up the information from the photons and electrons of that moment. And that we exist within the electromagnetic field produced by the earth. And there's like this quantum entanglement between like all our, everything that happens here. But I noticed too that water makes a total difference in our consciousness and how important that is to the entire process.
So
Actually,
based on
structured
what
water, I imagine. Sorry, what, Jem?
based on what you just said, are you saying that basically a remote viewer can also view into the future? Is what you're saying?
Yeah, but I don't I
Well, the
do
reason I'm
that like
asking is
what? Oh yeah.
I was
Uh-huh.
I was just gonna say the reason I'm asking is because it's like when I think about remote viewing, I think of the possibility of the oracles in the ancient world using it to kind of know what was going on. I mean, obviously there's the option that they just had some sort of, secret trade network or something where they were able to get information fast. But I mean, every leader in the ancient world basically went to the oracles and gave tribute to them and always asked for their advice before they did anything. So there's something to it. Like,
I'm so glad you're bringing this up, Shem, because people have literally will say that it's all this hustle and that a lot of the oracles in the ancient world were just like psyops and it was used as manipulation and it was just a way to get data and to you get all the secrets because you're knowing when people are showing up what they want. When you're going to an oracle, you know what their motives are, what they want to know, and then you're controlling the information of what you're releasing. So yes, I'm saying that yes, there was those types of manipulations with it, like and too of how important it is where you have like with remote viewing, you have the person that gives the coordinates and then you it's good to have like this overseer that takes the data and then reviews it like Edward, Edward Kelly.
So key. We were discussing this before we went live, and Shem had brought it up, asking in regards to lots of the tales of the ancient oracles, and that there's also like this inscriber with them. And for instance, it's like when to tie it in with what Hans was saying with the monks taking this giant iron body armor, which literally is a giant Faraday cage over top of them while physically grounding them and creating a shield encompassing all of their energy. So usually your crown chakra, all your conscious energy up. Instead, it's being physically taken while also simultaneously restraining the physical body as well, projecting your conscious energy down and keeping your physical body down there. That a lot of times while the person is experiencing their vision, they can be like in a seizure or speaking tongues or describing their different what they're seeing, like just stating your experience to it, but not capable of simultaneously recording that yourself. And the purpose and importance of having that second person being able to record, document, and translate the information, the person sourcing it or the astral projection connection.
Yeah, like there's a priest, like a priest that oversees it.
Somebody that helps initiate you in a sense, right?
And recording into the words of the people of the culture of that time in the society, right into the books. Whether
ideally, it's between man and woman. Like it was like the woman was the intuition and the man organizes it, like takes it back and like, oh, okay, and like Edward Kelly was the one.
A king directing their sage back in the day sort of thing or something like that, or like the wizard or mystic sort of thing.
And then like Edward Kelly, he was the one that was the seer, and John Dee would take it and organize it. And I for a long time assumed that John Dee was the seer, but no, he's the one that like organized it, constructed it, and knew what to do with it. Yeah.
And his symbol was 2-ball cane or 007. And so this is what he signed all of his documents with.
So Shem.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was going to say there's examples of what you're describing in secular literature too. For example, with Marco Polo and Rusticella de Pisa. He's the one that kind of like transcribed what Marco Polo told him. But what were you going to say?
Yeah, what does he say? No, I wanted to hear more about what you were saying because I love bringing it back, and that's why I was bringing up of like there's people that say this was an operation and that there was no oracle, and it's like no, we all knew, we knew to go to them, and once upon a time we all were so telepathic we didn't need to just have one person that we saw in the community.
Most leaders of today have an oracle of sorts or a reader that they go to or utilize. No joke. So yeah.
And sometimes I feel like the translation of it sometimes ends up being just as significant because sometimes things can be misconstrued. Like even the Oracle of Delphi, like people would wait for days. They would bring her these offerings. They'd wait and wait. And then you kind of read it and you're like, ooh, God, like I was like, this could be taken like so many different ways of how you then take it, and then that's super interesting. That's why I wanted to hear from Shem about this ancient stuff.
Oh yeah, I guess when you're describing remote viewing, I was thinking about in relation to a story I'd heard about a king of Lydia named Croesus who had two sons, and one of them was a mute son. And basically this guy Croesus, he went to the oracle all the time, and he was trying to get his son healed, and the oracle is basically like, you don't want your son to talk because the day that happens will be a very terrible day. So fast forward, Cyrus the Great is taking over the Lydian, like just conquering the Lydians, and Croesus is about to get killed, and Croesus's son speaks right then and says, no, don't kill him, that's Croesus. And it's the first time he speaks. He can speak after that, but I just was wondering if, I guess in relation to that, do the oracles have some sort of power to communicate with these mute people to figure out what's going on? But the way you're describing it now, it seems like just remote viewing in general, they can, I guess you describe them being initiated, so it could have something to do with the mystery religion. I don't know. And
Traveling clairvoyance. It's the traveling and the sensing abilities. But like I said, that's why I don't recommend astral projection, because I feel like it takes discipline. You get clapped up if you for some reason do it and you're not adept to dealing with certain energies, and then you're just an open vessel and some dirty crazy stuff out there that could go dark and get pretty dark pretty quickly. And so I say, like, instill a practice and get trained. It's like working out, like get stronger. So you're not just going out there, because there's so many things that we're not taught about that are out there that you open yourself up to participating with. So it's like levels of darkness and things that you're crossing a threshold that you don't even know. Like, so that's another reason why I'm kind of picky about who.
Everything exists simultaneously in the forever time, essentially, and that we're all existing in our own little moments, our discs, our page of that book, as each of our individual consciousnesses are moving through our current time on this third dimensional planet realm together. So you can envision it like the pages of a comic book flipping along the discs and moments of each of us going as the video of time keeps passing, and that it all connects into whether you envision it and see it as like the eternal God of heaven or hell existence realm, or whether you see it as the Akashic records, or when you meet your ancestors, or the ghosts or ghouls, whatever plane of conscious existence and time that exists outside of our third degree plane of reality right here in this space time, sorry.
Yeah, with like this is why I'm really careful and picky about who I do remote viewing for too, as well, because it's like you're blind to it. Do you know their intentions, where they're sending you? Like, would you send me into would you hire me to go, Julie, I want you to break into that biological weapon place, like what, with no suit or anything, not protected, I want you to walk in there and just expose, what? No, like there's things that you open yourself up to by doing that. And I think that Nathaniel Gillis is that demonologist, and I love everything he says. I love so much of what he says and how he's taken it back to an ancient route of discussing, like, you know, this alien thing is nothing new. There's stories of, you know, the 14th, 15th, 16th century of these women's experience where they have these entities that approach them and they look like their husband, but then they, you know, and they make love, and then they're impregnated, but then the husband morphs into another type of being afterwards. And this was centuries ago. And he's like, you know, and the fact, it reminds me today of like where the SETI things, where he's like that people then, they believed that what type of intention they had would summon what type of being they summoned, or angelic or whatever it was, you know, that they could change it by their intentions. Right.
Like
and so it's like
an angel or a demon.
So it's like doing that and putting like a
Solomon seals.
Like, did somebody say Solomon?
So this
Right,
book is all about, you know, summoning angelic or demonic beings and entrapping them.
And that's what a lot of both like Dee's work, as well as a lot of like, I believe, like Golden Dawn and the different occult groups over the years, like put effort into, as well as have documented experience and stories of them encountering both, I believe, the different archangels, as well as some of the potential demons, when they were able to recreate or do the rituals, or of performing the rituals of those Solomonic seals or spells, or whatever it is, to connect to these apparent existing entities.
I think a lot of these rooms too that are designed, you see them and they're cut in a certain way, and a lot of these ancient sites, they're programmed to be 111 hertz. You know, the God frequency, right? And I think that a lot of these things were to take your mind to a whole nother level. Can you imagine then and thriving? That's why I love to theosophize, or to I love theorizing that the in Peru, the Nazca lines was like for astral traveling, you know, so you knew where you were, like, oh, okay. You know, the astral body of like looking down, because there's times where I'm at places and I'll know locations and it'll show me like a map, you know, like a map. And there's certain things I'll see from really high above, or I'll just know. But I love theorizing that, you know, certain locations doing that.
Such a phenomenal thought, just in regards to, you're going to have to experiment and try remote viewing the Medicine Hat Badland Guardian site here in Alberta, because it is parallel to the Peru site, where there's the geoglyphs, earthenworks at both the Peru and the Alberta site, directing to one another, as well as each of them also directing to the pyramids in Giza, and then all the stories and people with their experiences of using the chambers within the pyramids of Giza for the astral projection and whatnot, and claiming to get enhanced experiences and out of body with it. That, well, that would make perfect sense why they would build these structures that enhance your astral projection on these sites that then connect to each other and map around the world.
That actually could have been an after effect of what the original site was. And so when you go into the King's Chamber after going through the Corvold Grand Gallery, basically you go into it and it resonates at like E, but then you get in the box and it resonates at F. And so the question is, what's going on there? But when you actually get into the box and you start toning, you feel like you are having an astral body projection of sorts. And so when I've been there twice now. I go down once they open up. If you're on a private tour, they allow you into the King's Chamber, the Queen's Chamber, and then down into the subterranean area. And so I like to go down into the subterranean area before anybody else, because I'll go down there, I'll crawl down the dead end shaft. It's about 55, 60 feet from the main area of the subterranean area. In the middle of the subterranean room is a well shaft that goes down 3 or 4 layers, and you can see that it has different tunnels that go off of it. So they definitely were bringing water up into this site at one point. And the dead end shaft at the end of it actually has a piece of cement covered over it, so it's not dead end, and there's a hole drilled through it. But the space is tiny. It's 3 foot by 3 foot or a meter by a meter, and you're crawling over like bedrock that's like just ripping your knees to shreds, basically. And so I'll go down there and I'll sit and I'll turn off my torch, and nobody else is coming down there at all for at least 5 to 10 minutes. And you feel the pulse of the earth, you feel the pulse of yourself, and so you kind of have an inner body experience. And this is interesting because in Buddhist philosophy of sorts, instead of having an external orgasm or an external ejaculation, you have an internal one, and this eventually plants the seed that takes 3 days to grow and then impregnates your inner body with a golden body or a light body. And so this is also considered a form of astral projection. And so when your body is ready to die, you have an imprint that you can then step your energy source into while your physical body collapses. And this to me just is like incredibly fascinating, because the male and the female can also create this through, like tantric practices where, you're engaging in an internal.
You guys, that sexual energy is the most power. You want to do psychic amazing things, be disciplined, and you go sober and literally like harness that sexual energy and utilize it.
Right, I mean, it ties into all of it, and essentially the training you're offering, Julia, is like, especially for like relationships, it's like plan like your romantic movie night around like the eclipse time, around these specific energy times, and like make sure that you're both well rested and like preparing your bodies and your mental state for like the couple of days before it, as opposed to like completely being reckless or like planning to like be in some sort of argument or altercation.
Yeah, it's like, dude, it's $99 workshop. It's a beginner workshop, but like I was thinking about that, of like all the things like it covers health-wise, like tips and protocols where I'm like, listen up, like this is what works, like this is what I had profound results from. And when you do that, when you start paying attention to things that can heal you and catapult you and help you on your ascension, it's like you begin to work with an energy that supports that, your ancestors, versions of you, future versions of you, your childhood, your childlike self, past versions of you, core versions of you, and things begin to get behind you when you start on that journey of inner self-development and reflection. And like, I want to develop this, and where this world is headed, like it's going to come in handy. So I don't know. I'm kind of excited about it, and it's like I'm really excited, and I'm glad to offer this because I know it's going to be needed. And so I know that this is for like a certain amount of a certain amount of people that are ready too. Like it's like I'm finding my tribe that's like I can help my experience and share that in one place,
right?
In one day.
Assembling a crew of adept, in tuned people with extra psychic abilities. You're assembling a crew of superheroes soon. What what could it get to? Right,
we create our own little X-Men.
Exactly what I was thinking. You'll end up having the geodome with the network into like the grid of conscious people, right?
But seriously though, like if there was an EMP or the system, everything, internet's down, power grid's down, who are the people you're going to turn to? What are you going to do? you're gonna really need that, and you're gonna get, it's the shamans and the and those types of people, and the hunter, the
You're also
alpha
going to find
warriors.
like-minded people when you go into those realms, right? You're going to find more of your tribe, and so people are going to start, collecting in different areas. You were talking earlier about, ancient sites, and what's interesting about that is look at all the ley lines that they're on. And so are these hyperactive sites of consciousness as well. So, people will continually flock to these ley line points. That's interesting, right?
Yeah, like the location, and that's
right. Locational energy and time energy, as you were saying. Like, when are the best times to go into these realms, or to go into this ability? So, yeah.
Experience the energies of them. For instance, the Bosnian pyramids and Sam Osmanovic, and how he's doing the event, I believe, in the summer solstice this year. Really hope I'm able to somehow magically make it there, but if not this year, definitely next year. And that we need to establish some protocols and real, like, psychic as style or conscious experiments that we can start doing, as well as like group meditations of positive intent along at the same time as these eclipses, the solstices, the equinoxes, and during that time also include these different psychic experiments that we can start documenting and recording so much, right?
Yeah, like the remote influencing results of the studies that they did about how they were able to influence the stock market and things that you could change. Now, if you put that on like a global level of like things, you have a group of people that remote view and have developed that area. And so remote influencing something, but something for the greater good of humanity.
Right? Or just we'll be able to write up some protocols and start doing tests of attempts at the mass influencing, and then running the test at like a normal time, and then like running the same test at during these times of like the eclipses and alignments and stuff like that, and see if you get noticeable increase.
I know we should plan something for April 8th during that eclipse. That's going to be wild.
There's going to be a 24-hour stream then. And at some point in that 24 hours, we will attempt some sort of psychic experiments.
Oh, we got to.
Everybody bring your pendulum. Do you ever use pendulum work at all, Julia?
No.
No. Okay.
But no, but it's interesting that Egyptian priests would use like